Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Cheap Seats here on One World Sports Radio. Remember, it's a Cheap Seats in conjunction with Classic Shirts ZA. As I move Cyrus across so you guys can see the logo a little bit better. But yeah, so we've got Cyrus, we've got Wahid, we've got Dean. Remember, we're in this partnership with Classic Shirts ZA. They are giving you a promotion, giving us, well, not a promotion, but giving you the ability to buy shirts at a discount. You can type in the Cheap Seats 50 discount code on their website. Do go check them out at Classic Shirts ZA on Twitter or on their website. They have some really lovely classic shirts.
They do.
Our Classic Shirts promotion, well, advertising for the week. Our classic shirt of the week is the same one that Wahid's wearing, because Wahid wants to be remind himself of the good old days. So
when he was a model.
Yes, we went back into time to Manchester United's 93-94, the black kit. I don't know if this was the first ever black kit for Manchester United.
It was the first ever black. It was the first ever total black kit in the Premier League.
So
is that also known as the Kung Fu kit?
It is the Kung Fu kit. Oh, there's Bob, Cantona in the crowd. Oh, what great time, Cyrus. As a United fan, we're so sad at watching our current club that all we can do is log on to Classic Kits and buy kits that remind us of times when we used to be good. That's all we can do to be happy right now.
Yeah, so do follow Classic Shirts ZA on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can go and be like Wahid and wallow in your sorrows by opening up your wallet and purchasing this, and maybe looking a little bit like Eric Cantona and maybe trying that kung fu move that he did. We never know, but that's up to you. Please do support them. They're really great partners of ours. This week we're talking about one thing. There were supposed to be 10 games and there were actually 9. And in my words, I think Arsenal asked the question, Dean, of the Premier League, when the Premier League said, if you've only got like 14 players, you can ask for a postponement, and they did. Even though there was one COVID case at Arsenal, that was Martin Odegaard, and the Premier League obliged. So Graham Souness and every person with a keyboard and every keyboard warrior was saying that Arsenal are wimps. They lack courage. Look at Leeds. They played their 16-year-olds. My answer to them was, did you guys see the FA Cup where Arsenal losing with their kids? So I thought it was a ballsy move by Arsenal to try get it postponed, because our academy guys I thought they're actually pretty good, but they got it approved. I say don't blame Arsenal, blame the Premier League. Dean, what do you say?
That's like saying...
That sounds like an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
Really is.
I have a counter to that, Paul, and it's a bit drastic, but take this. If someone gets murdered in South Africa, do you blame the murder rate or do you blame the murderer? Because that's exactly the same. Like, you cannot blame because of the governing body... Because the governing body allows it. The question was still... The point is, Arsenal still asked the question, even though they know that they are in no right to be asking the question. So you don't blame the person that allows you to cheat, blame the cheater. So
let me counter your counter with a counter. There are definitely people who are in relationships who go to nightclubs and they pick up people who are not their partners. Now, do you blame the person who was picked up for not knowing there's somebody back home? Or do you just say the question was asked? This is what's happening.
Well, I know what I would choose, but as Arsenal fans, we don't have very high morals anyway, considering they fired Gunnosaurus when they couldn't afford anything.
Look,
Arsenal don't have a good moral ground to stand on, and that's my problem. Like, I understand they had 13 or 12 players that could.
But how did they get to the point of having 13 and 12 players? That's the issue.
Because Xhaka decided to kick Jota in the chest.
A lot of it wasn't external to decisions they've made in the club. A lot of it related to internal decisions they made on the club. send Oaks out on loan, and
Yeah.
now we can't start postponing games because people are short when their players are sent on loan and gone to the AFCON, because that sets a very dangerous precedent. This wasn't a COVID-related issue. This was Arsenal's internal bad management that had them come down to 14 players, and now all of a sudden they want to postpone games based on the pandemic. I'm sorry, that's like when
I'm not complaining. They asked the question.
That's like when I go to my clients and like you ask them why did electricity go down, they're like, oh yeah, because of COVID. Like everything is because of COVID these days.
Yes. AFCON. Technically, AFCON's in January because of COVID. Yes.
If you want to go back, then what? Must we blame Wuhan? Is that how far Arsenal want to go back?
No, I think we even go further back than that, Dean. Let's look at when they formed the club, Arsenal Football Club.
Let's
go back there. That might have been the first mistake.
But I think the worst thing for me is that Arsenal loaned out Maitland-Niles to Roma in the beginning of the week, or whenever it was, beginning of the window. So they knew that they were going to be, or they were going to be a player short already.
Well, nobody expected Xhaka to get a red card.
Okay, but
except for everyone.
You should know your players.
Play your 16-year-old when you have those issues. But
they played the under 18 teams on Saturday, and they played the under 23s on Monday or Sunday. So they have players. They just didn't want to play the second string. So it just goes to show Arsenal Football Club are scared of Spurs. That's what it was. You guys are so scared of us. You guys are so scared that you didn't want to take the risk of not having a semi-strength 11, because now we're just going to batter you 5-0 in the next time. So that's what I'm looking for.
That's fantastic. Okay. Dean, if there's ever been a you weren't here for the fight, so we'll call you names kind of thing, this is definitely it, right?
This is it. Okay, but Cyrus, he's made a point. It creates a very bad precedent, and one that can possibly carry throughout the entire season, because from my point of view, it kind of felt like it was karma, because that Brentford game we had 5 starters out because of COVID in the first game of the season, there was no way the Premier League was going to postpone the first game of the season. So you kind of felt like they were like, well, you guys denied us that.
Here's your one off, yeah. Look,
yes.
And that's how Arsenal supporters and people at the club feel about it. But the rest of supporters of the different teams in the league, and to tell the truth, the rest of the footballing world, look at this and say, this is a Premier League issue. I don't blame Arsenal for this. Arsenal, like you say, asked the question. The thing about it is that if a kid asks to swallow a battery, you don't give them the battery and say, hey, let's see what happens. You have to take a stance, and the stance is really, that's how you set precedent.
Even Gerrard's parents did that.
Whoa.
Okay.
You said that out loud. So I look at this and I say, the Premier League really are the main villains of the piece here, because at some point, you look at some of the other clubs, Chelsea in particular, had asked for a postponement because of COVID-related issues and just not having, let's say, the adequate staff that they felt they needed in order to compete in the game. The league said, no, bud, you've got to play. And they went ahead and fulfilled the fixture. So once you have a situation where nobody knows what is going on, all hell breaks loose from there. And I think that, let's say the next one is Man City are having to play a really big game, and there's points in the line. And I mean, not that Man City cannot afford to drop points, but let's say it's even a relegation battle, right? And it's the last game of the season. Certain teams need results to go their way. They then say they don't have enough players to fulfill the fixture. It gets postponed to the next day or something like that. They then know what the result is that they need, and they go hammer and tongs to get that. So it really is problematic for so many different reasons, and the league has got to stop that.
I think the biggest issue, Cyrus, is I think we need to discuss what the actual policy is, because the policy at the moment is very grey. The policy states that they take each case on an individual case-by-case basis. So, for example, at one club, you could have 5 players out, and the Premier League deemed that not enough, like 5 players out for COVID, and the Premier League deemed that not enough to postpone the game. But another club, you could have 2 players out, both of them goalkeepers, and the Premier League go, actually, no, wait, you don't have enough players. you don't have enough players to fulfill your duties in this fixture. So the problem at the moment is that the Premier League are using discretion in their judgment,
like a rugby referee.
Yeah, it's leaving a very grey area and stuff up to interpretation.
Umpires call, Wahid.
People are saying people are saying there isn't any standardization between calls here. So I think that was the biggest issue with Arsenal, is that people are saying in isolation it might have been fine, but when comparing it to other decisions that have been made over the course of the season, this doesn't make sense to postpone this Arsenal game. So I've just seen the Athletic saying that during this next little mini break, the Premier League are considering revising
that's great.
the stuff for the rest of the season.
After the wave is finished. Like, that's fantastic.
No, when everyone's back from Africa with the COVID.
Yeah.
That they're supposed to be afraid of.
Yeah, but I think there's also another point here, and Wahid has really hit on it, and I think Arsenal fans have actually not really seen what the bigger story is here. The league felt Arsenal was so bad that even with the players that they had, they just felt this would be a walkover. So they just said, you know what, we got to cancel this and let the guys come up, because Spurs are going to win 25-0.
The worst is that they add insult to injury by then going and loaning out Pablo Mari like the day after.
Yes. And
so I have no players, but you know what? I'm going to get rid of another one.
We have less players.
Yes. No, but guys, that was the whole point.
But maybe in mitigation, perhaps those deals were so far along that they couldn't be reversed. I mean, look, we don't. But I'm saying perhaps that is one of the things that the league looked at in mitigation.
The only problem
I'm trying.
I know.
I'm trying for you, bud.
I don't need people to defend Arsenal. The people who need to be defended here are the Premier League or the FA, whoever made this decision. I think it's the Premier League, because in the Carabao Cup, Liverpool had, I don't know, false positives, and their game was postponed.
Yeah, let's also talk about the 0.001% chance of having 12 false positives, because that to
the
me
Powerball.
Cheating.
The
Arsenal looked at Liverpool and were like, cool, you guys are cheating. Let's see how badly we can cheat.
No, because what it did, Dean, was that
you're still cheating, You're still cheating.
No, but we were supposed to have. We weren't supposed to have a game like it was ridiculous. We were supposed to have like 3 games this week in like the space of 7 days.
The problem here
because
is
of that
Paul
postponement.
is thinking that he's mancading a player, but in fact he's just ball tampering. Like one is frowned upon and one is illegal.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! He's got the sandpaper out.
Yeah, I've got it out. But anyway. Great news for Arsenal. Thanks to the postponement, Thomas Partey will be available for the North London derby. Aubameyang sent back home early, so he might be available if
he doesn't have the heart for it.
Thomas Partey's been sent home, and Arsenal have applied to postpone the game because they weren't expecting this.
But okay. Finally, okay, that's the last we'll hear about it. Dean, I'm sorry. I actually wanted to beat you on Sunday with my kids. I wanted you to
stood better chance. Honestly, Arsenal stood more of a chance of beating us this past weekend because we also don't have Eric Dyer, we don't have Christian Romero, we don't have Son, we don't have anyone. You guys should have played.
Yeah.
The best part of this entire discussion is that we've gone 14 minutes and Dean hasn't brought up the Spurs 16-17 season, which is like a record for any Spurs fan.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Guys, is this title race over? I watched Manchester City on the weekend and I watched Kepa make a blunder. Nobody noticed it, but I saw that. That should have been
literally jumped the wrong way first and gave the ball enough space to get past him. But
Kepa is the modern day Massimo Taibi.
I wouldn't go that far. Taibi was an absolute horror story. Kepa does give you nightmares, but Taibi, goodness, he was like the whole Saw franchise. I think, though, that this is definitely City's title. There's just too many points that are required for them to drop in order for anybody to have a sniff. Not just win, but literally have a sniff. And then you go and you look at who the chasing pack is and just what kind of season they'd have to have in order to catch up. And I don't see Liverpool or Chelsea doing that. And
But
that's
Cyrus,
the key thing here.
Cyrus, it's only 11 points to Liverpool. Liverpool have a game in hand, so it could be 8 with the assumption that the game in hand is going to be played when Mo Salah comes back. Or is it just too far gone?
Tell me which fixtures you're expecting Liverpool to drop, or rather City to drop points in, that Liverpool will definitely make the difference up in. I mean, I think they do need to play each other another time. And so that's as they call them, a 6-pointer. But I just don't see where City drop all of those points. I really don't. And when you look at it, yes, they've taken their eye off the ball in the past, and perhaps they don't necessarily need to lose the games. It might just be a succession of draws that could help. But I look at Liverpool and think they're not the kind of team that will go unbeaten the rest of the season. Nor will Chelsea. In fact, Chelsea in that Brighton game looked as devoid of ideas as Marcos Alonso in terms of trying to think how fast he should try and turn in order to spin away from a person who's behind him. So
why are you writing us off? Eh? Why are you just mentioning Chelsea and Liverpool?
Well, Manchester United have written themselves off.
Let the big boys talk.
Look, okay, let's say for argument's sake, United are in the mix come the end of the season. There's a lot of things that need to have gone right for United in order to do that, right? First and foremost would have to be that they extract the absolute most out of every single one of the players that have been derided for the last couple of weeks.
Hold up, Cyrus.
We're not turning the show into
hold up, Cyrus.
show.
There are 24 points behind Manchester City. 24.
Let's allow Wahid to bask in the glory, right? Glory, Man United. I mean, it's a heck of a mountain, but people have climbed mountains before.
Where were you on the log last year this time?
What they say? Yeah, they were first.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to make you say.
I must just tell you, so we were first. If there wasn't dodgy refereeing at Sheffield United, if there were mistaken goals at Arsenal, and beating Liverpool, we would have won the league. We were this close.
Yeah.
We were this close.
You know, if anything, when you look at United's season last year, and Wahid has brought all of the receipts, you realize that some of the receipts are bouncing. In the sense that, like, these numbers just don't add up, bud. They just don't add up.
Yeah, they really don't. But so what went wrong, Cyrus, with Chelsea? What's gone wrong? Because even now, I think we had a podcast before we went out in December, and you said no, but guys, wait, it's not a slump, it's a little blip. But it seemed to have continued.
Oh, I said it's possible that it's a blip. But blips are long, man. Undefined. I think the thing with Chelsea in particular is that they just haven't been able to understand exactly what they want to do going forward. And I don't want to blame Romelu Lukaku because that is music to Wahid's ears. What I will say, though, is adding Lukaku changed what they might have done with the strikers that they had in the past. Like, so Werner would have been in positions where he would have missed chances more than the ball never going to Lukaku. And when you look at how Chelsea are playing at present, it's relatively simple for teams to try and get the better of Lukaku because they know the ball can only get to him one or two routes, either on the flanks, and the guys who have generally been doing the business around there in Ben Chilwell and Reece James are both out, or through the middle, and we don't have those midfielders that send through those incisive passes. And dare I say it, Jorginho is potentially one of the key problems behind why Chelsea don't necessarily get the ball forward enough. He sits back. He doesn't spray any real balls forward. He just sort of finds the ball that finds the closest midfielder or the closest wing back to get the ball to. So
no, I don't buy that.
There is.
I don't buy that. I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in there because Jorginho is the type of player that allows other players to play, and the problem is not Jorginho. The problem is that your other players aren't playing. So it's not like Jorginho reminds me of a Michael Carrick.
Okay, I get you.
He's the type of player who allows other players to play.
But the difference here, though, and I agree with you with that in the sense that, yes, he doesn't necessarily have to be the one that does all of those things. But then when the pressure's on and the other guys aren't doing the job, Jorginho can't carry on doing the same thing over and over again and hope that it suddenly yields a result, right? And I think that's where, when you've looked at the Chelsea team in the past, when Jorginho's not played in recent weeks, They actually had far better results when they played with Kovacic and Kante than they did when they relied on Jorginho to start the moves going forwards. It was just the way things worked. I don't necessarily think that Jorginho is bad. I think that it's contributing to the way that the team is playing and not being incisive enough. Look at the game against Liverpool.
I hear you, but you don't blame a club's lack of like attacking prowess when you've got £100 million striker, you've got Kai
300
Havertz,
million attack.
you've got like a £350 million attack, and you're blaming the player who's there, who's trying to keep it simple in the park.
Okay. Let me break this down to you, because it seems that you've forgotten that your team does similar, right? What you have is an engine room issue. And if the engine room is not
My
working the
team
way
is
it
a
needs
complete
to,
and utter mess. Compare yourself to Man United.
But the engine room does work,
we
though,
are.
Cyrus. The engine room does work. Like you've just said, Kante and Kovacic works with them. But
when you're utilizing it effectively, and this goes to the point and the overarching point, which is Tuchel is not extracting the best out of the players that he has at hand here. I don't think that he's given anybody enough of a run in the right positions. When you look at somebody like Hudson-Odoi, who has been one of the better players to actually create some sort of thing coming from the left flank, he's not played him enough. He's then insisting on playing Hakim Ziyech. Hakim Ziyech played that entire game yesterday. He scored a great goal, but was absolutely dross from before the goal to after the goal. It was evident from anybody who was watching it that Ziyech was just not the answer. And it took him until the 75th, 78th minute to replace him. And he came off the same time as Jorginho. And once those guys came off, they actually looked like a far better attacking threat. But the issue is they'd already run out of time at that stage. So that's just my perspective in terms of what's happening.
Cyrus, you pay, as Wahid says, £100 million striker, Lukaku. When you played Arsenal in that first game, it looked like everyone was trying to accommodate this new man who's back. Why aren't they leaning into that a lot more, that more physical side of the game that enables Lukaku to
Lukaku is not physical. Stop there.
So there's that.
There's that. Lukaku, people look at Lukaku and think Drogba, and I think that is it's something in the imagination because he's a big black guy. I don't know if it's that. But I don't know if there's a racial element to it, but he's not a physical player. He's honestly not a physical player. He can play on the shoulder, and he's quite quick, but he's not physical. His heading and chest control is actually really bad.
Although his hold-up play has gotten a lot better from since he was at United, but the problem with that is when he's passed it to somebody at Chelsea, they're not pushing the ball into the spaces behind him in order for him to run into. The ball then gets recycled again, and that's the most infuriating thing about watching Chelsea play, is that you can send it to your target man, but then it's got to then come almost straight back to him in order to give him a space to go through.
So it's no secret, I don't think he's that good. But what he is good at is playing on the shoulder of the last man. Once he's turned to the last man, that's when he's at his best. That's when he's at his best. When he's turned the last man's dead. So if you're using Lukaku as a target man, you're using him all wrong. So his best time came at Inter as a partnership with Lautaro Martinez and playing on the shoulder of the last man. So I don't know if there was a breakdown in what Chelsea were expecting of the man, or that seems to be what it's at, because they're expecting him almost to be a Drogba, and that's never ever going to happen. I mean, he's not
the only player that came close was Diego Costa.
Not even like a Lord Bentner as a target man. He's worse than that even.
Lord Bentner, goodness.
Dean, what did you want to say?
So, obviously, having a look, Chelsea ran rampant over Spurs in the Carabao Cup semi-finals. Like, it wasn't even close. And looking at some of the stats, I think the reason why is obviously their midfield and defense were just unreal in that game. So I look at that and I think Tuchel does get the best out of the defense and the midfield from what it looks like. So he's got the best out of like Rudiger. He's got the best out of Thiago Silva, although Thiago Silva is like a great player anyway. Getting the best out of James and Chilwell. So I think he's getting the best out of defenders and probably midfielders to an extent. But is he then just not qualified enough as a coach to get the best out of an attack? Is that where it comes down? Because exactly that, we look at Lukaku at Inter, and yes, it's a different league and whatever, but you can't, there's not that much of a drastic change in, or can't be that much of a drastic change in leagues. So he's either using him wrong. Yeah. So is he using him wrong, or does he just not know how to use and attack minding players? Because it's not just Lukaku.
Yeah.
It's same with Werner. It's the same with Havertz. Like, where does
I'm with you, and I think this is the thing. There's also, I mean, as much as we often blame the coaches here, the players are also at fault. I do think that in some cases, training must be a hell of a thing, because Ziyech is playing more games than I'd expected him to, playing so badly. And I think that when you look at a team like Chelsea, one of the key things is you cannot necessarily blame a lack of talent in that squad, right? There is talent up and down that squad. So then it's extracting it. And this is where it almost feels as if he has too many players. And he's just like, okay, this week, Pulisic, you're going to play. And trying to manage them that way. I would love to see a more consistent Chelsea, where we've changed to a back four at the moment. We were playing with 5 at the back and the wing backs. Now we're playing with a back four. That's supposed to have freed up more space in the midfield for guys to get creative. That hasn't necessarily been the case.
It's a little bit like Van Gaal at United. Can't decide what to do with all the talent he has. Cycling through systems, playing players out of positions, round pegs, square holes, all sorts of things going on there. Trying to play Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech as wing backs.
Is Chelsea not just a better United right now because they have slightly better players? Because again, it's like the coach.
Wait, hold up. Actually, is that Chelsea squad better than United though?
Oh yeah.
On paper, for sure.
I would say so.
The difference is the midfield. The difference between Chelsea and United.
That midfield.
I'd potentially say the defense. Because if you actually look at it,
like, I mean, we've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Come lads. I mean,
but you loved Aaron Wan-Bissaka 2 seasons ago. Like, you were like wanting him in your side.
Roberto Carlos. Remember that 6 months ago.
When was I propping up Wan-Bissaka?
That's when you were getting him. When you look at the side
C team that they can be professional footballers.
Yeah.
Look, I think the thing here, though, is you look at United, they just haven't been able to really solidify things. Maguire's just not been that guy. Somehow Tuchel's managed to get the best out of Rudiger in particular. Frank Lampard just couldn't do it and wanted him out of the club because he's a big personality who just wasn't gelling with the coach at the time. Tuchel has been like, Bud, I've seen you before. You can shut up and let's do our thing. It's what happens going forward. And Chelsea have sometimes in the past over-relied on players like Eden Hazard who can just make things happen out of nowhere. And we don't have that guy right now.
Would you take him back?
Look, the problem here is I most certainly would. Do I expect that he would do stuff for us? I'm not sure. Because once a player goes, when they come back...
You guys give me crap about wanting to go back to X's. It's Chelsea cannot do the same
But the problem is it's Eden Hazard, though. Like, there's X's and then there's Eden Hazard.
It's Pochettino. It's, come on.
Yeah, look, I can understand that, right? And there's also the feel-good factor of, oh, we know this person, they were a legend, they did all this stuff. But I don't know if Hazard makes this particular Chelsea team any better. I think Chelsea play a little too slow, and they're not necessarily getting the best out of the striking players that they have. So, for instance, you talked about Lukaku running off the shoulder of defenders. I'll tell you something. Werner plays best when he does that too, and Chelsea never ever utilized him in that way. And this is what's really infuriating because it's plain for people to see. So then you start looking at
that's not Werner's problem, Si.
It isn't.
He looks like $1 million until he's facing the goal, and that's when it all falls to shit.
Look, that is true. You're talking to a guy who watched Fernando Torres playing at Chelsea. But Torres looked bad even before he was getting to goal. Werner can't dribble, so playing him on the wing is absolutely pointless. And I think that what you have to do is exactly what you said with Lukaku. Almost play it into the spaces behind the defenders on the floor, let him run at it, and let him take the shots. If he misses, he misses. If he hits the target, he hits the target, but at least put him in those positions. Lukaku had no ball last night. I can't blame him for that. And that's the coach's issue.
Fair enough.
before we end up, I just want to get Wahid's comment on this so we can have it like live and we can refer to it. The rumors and the stories around Ralph saying to the Manchester United board that Maguire, Wan-Bissaka,
Let's chat
and
about this.
Shaw are not good enough and should effectively, find a way out. What do you say to that?
I don't know. I very much doubt that a player that a coach who gave apparently a very impressive PowerPoint presentation saying how you could extract the best from the
Some
team,
mad animations.
decided this quickly about these players. So I don't know. I don't know what he's seeing there. Like,
Made those players
I
like spin in and spin out.
With arrows.
I understand him not being a fan of Aaron Wan-Bissaka because neither am I. I could almost understand him like not being a fan of Harry Maguire because I don't know if Harry Maguire is every coach's cup of tea. He's typically British and like a continental coach might not enjoy that too much. Luke Shaw's the weird one because I don't know, like he just seems like a player that Ralph might have liked, but Ralph seems to be turning to Tellez quite a lot, so it doesn't seem out of the realms of possibility. I did see a tweet from someone saying like Mourinho warned us about this lad. Mourinho warned us.
I was just about to say, it can't be that the only person who really saw the absolute best in Luke Shaw was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a man who everybody said was clueless. So there must be something that more lauded coaches see, and they're like, how the hell is this guy still playing here?
But on that
so Van Gaal had serious issues with him. I think who was his coach at Spurs, who also had at Southampton, also had serious issues with his fitness, in particular his fitness.
Wasn't it Pochettino?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It might have been Poch, or it might have been before Poch. But someone at Southampton had serious reservations about his fitness. And then Southgate at times has had issues with Luke Shaw and not picking him. Luke Shaw had a really good season last year, but in general has probably failed to live up to the expectations placed on him as a teenager when he signed for Man United. Apart from maybe the last 12 months when Ole got something into him and figured something out. He formed a really good relationship with Marcus Rashford, but both of them seem to have lost whatever got them going in that period of time. But yeah, it is what it is. It doesn't surprise me that the coach has issues with his players because they're not playing very well. The problem is that you've got a £50 million Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who is not worth that money. The problem is you've got an £80 million Harry Maguire, who's not worth that money, and you've got a £30 million Luke Shaw on a long-term contract, who I don't know if he'll have any resale value at this point. Here's my point, right? It's going to be very difficult.
So you point out those three players in the back line, fine. And I saw someone else mention it. If you look at Varane's position at the weekend for those 2 goals that Villa scored, that's also not fantastic.
No,
so
it's not fantastic. Varane has been very hot and cold. There's been games when you look at Varane and you think absolute Rolls Royce of a player, and then there's been some real individual mistakes from Rafa Varane, which I probably wasn't expecting. I was expecting someone to come in a lot more solid and a lot more solidified in his stature.
But then you're basically saying your entire defense is terrible.
But even before that. But it starts with the issue around Fred and McTominay, that there needs to be serious decisions made about what happens with the midfield, right? Because
that's where it
often, and like when Chelsea have been at their absolute worst, N'Golo Kante's not been there. When he's been there, shucks, you're like, okay, we've got a chance. Even that City game, I mean, it's not as if City absolutely hammered Chelsea in the game. They got a really great goal, but City did to Chelsea what they do to most teams, right? They control the ball, they move it around, and then they had a couple of chances. That first half, there was 0 shots on target for either team. So it goes to show you that the gulf is not massive. But I think that at United, the biggest need is to find whoever they need to talk to and get Declan Rice into that team as of yesterday. Like, Declan Rice will make Manchester United a title challenging team. He is
Well,
that
it's-
good.
Can I just stop you? I'm sick of that discussion. I'm
He's the
absolutely sick
He's
of
the guy.
this is the
Why?
savior, that is the savior, and this is the savior, and that is the savior, and United
I agree with you.
as the savior. I'm absolutely
Okay.
sick
Because
of this
Varane was
discussion.
the savior.
I love it.
Varane
So
was the
who-
savior.
I'm
In
sick of it
Ronaldo,
because we
in
keep
Sancho.
needing every single transfer window. We need the savior of Man United. We spend tons of
An
money on
inordinate.
Man
Because
United.
you're gargantuan.
And the culture in the club is so broken from top to bottom that no savior is ever going to fucking save this club because they're so shit.
Okay,
Oh, this is the best we broke
Wahid
you.
wants, we broke him, but he wants a sports psychologist inside there to have sessions with everybody, change the culture of the before they even spend money. Because
No.
Cyrus and Dean,
Blazers out.
we've been seeing all the Lingard packages for Declan Rice with a little bit of money throughout the summer. It didn't happen, and so I just sit here going, "There's a Cristiano Ronaldo issue. There's an issue at the back.
Issues
just
all over the place.
a tire fire."
It's literally
Our
the
other
whole
savior,
place.
Jadon Sancho, has like fewer goals and assists than Coutinho, who's played 25
Oh, so now
minutes.
you're turning on him.
No, I'm not turning on him. I like him as a player. He's a
just
huge,
sick.
talented
He's
player.
sick of
But
it.
he's coming into a broken structure, and it's very difficult to do well in a broken structure and broken culture.
But let me ask you a question, Wahid. Let's say you get Declan Rice or somebody of that ilk, right? Because I feel that, and please stop me if this is a little too far of a comparison, that he plays a similar role to what Casemiro does for Real Madrid, in terms of being able to break up plays, but also can run with the ball a little bit when needed.
Yeah.
The thing that Rice really gives more than anything else is absolute leadership in that midfield. Because if there's one thing that you haven't seen at United, it's people who lead from the front. Yes, you've got Maguire shouting his big head off at the back, and you've got Cristiano Ronaldo preening like a peacock in the front, but nobody's actually grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck like Roy Keane used to do and say, I'm going to take control of this. Because Pogba doesn't do that, right? Sancho can't do that. Rashford doesn't do that. And
one question,
Fernandes is the closest we have to that. But the problem is he vacillates between like a Roy Keane type of personality and a Cristiano type of personality. He's pointing fingers and throwing tantrums. So he needs to probably be less Cristiano and more Roy Keane, but he does have that dimension to him.
But here's my one thing.
To me, he should be club captain.
So if you put Declan Rice in that team, and 100%, I'm not saying Declan Rice is a bad player, but is Declan Rice a good player in West Ham and an average player in Man United? Or is it the same as a Grealish where the man is absolute balling at Villa, put him in City and he's touch and go?
We've had these issues before because once upon a time, Morgan Schneiderlin was the man to unlock Man United.
But he was from Southampton.
But he was really good for Southampton.
But that's what I'm saying. This is the problem we always have. Like, Declan Rice is a fantastic footballer, and he will probably fix a lot of teams. But is it, again, just a case of looking at a lower-ranked team, and then as soon as he walks in, you got Varane from Real Madrid, and the guy looks like he can't defend. Like,
but he is also...
Again, broken structure.
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter whether he's coming from West Ham,
it's not a savior
or Real Madrid. He's going to struggle.
Everyone will struggle in that team.
Okay, from broken structure to broken families to broken whatever it is that's happening at Manchester United, I'm going to have to call it from here. One thing is, remember that we Classic Shirts ZA are our sponsors for the show. We've gotten another set of shirts for you, North London selection. Tottenham.
That's the shirt you guys actually wore, though, not the one that you were supposed to wear on Sunday.
Quick one. Go around the table. Which one do you think is nicer?
Obviously, the one on the left. Obviously, it's so much nicer.
I don't know why I've got. Look, I love the white Holston kit, but that classic Arsenal kit.
Yes.
There's something about it.
Is there even an
There's
answer?
something about it. Maybe it's because I've watched Fever Pitch so much that that I can see Michael Thomas running around in that thing.
But you can get those at Classic Shirts ZA. Please do contact them on their website or on Instagram, and then you can get some shirts.
Don't buy the Arsenal one, though.
Yes. Well, remember, you please do like and subscribe. And also, we've got an FPL show that comes out tomorrow where we find out why everybody has Coutinho and everyone's running away from certain Chelsea players. But we'll talk about that after or tomorrow when you join us on the cheap seats. And where is the video?